we talk about here are done in pre-cal exactly the same way. Okay. All right. Page 20 for this one. Make sure your calculators are ready to go. Solving quadratic functions or equations. Okay. When you are asked to solve, page 20, when you're asked to solve a quadratic, what they're really asking is, like, you need to determine, find the x-intercepts. Okay. So solving means find the x-intercepts. That's basically what they're asking you for. And you need to remember that moving forward, the x-intercepts or intercept is the exact same as the roots. So if they ever ask you for the roots, they're asking for x-intercepts as well. And sometimes you may come across zeros. Find the zeros. It means the same thing. They all mean the same thing. I will add another one here because, you can never have enough. Solutions. All of them mean the exact same thing. So don't fear it. But what all of them have in common is this, folks, that no matter what, no matter which one I state, you should think y is equal to 0, comma, since the x-intercept is a number followed by 0, always. Y is always going to be 0, so keep that in mind. So if I ask you for the roots, you're like, oh, Mr. Dixon is asking me for the x-intercepts. If the question is asking for the solutions, you're like, oh, it's really just the x-intercepts. Find the zeros, oh, it's just the x-intercepts. Solve this quadratic, find the x-intercepts. I hope you understand that part, okay? There are two methods of solving quadratics, using the quadratic formula or using a graphing method. Both of these involve your calculator. We're going to do quadratic formula today. So here it is. This one needs to be on your study sheet. Given the general form, right? I would say that general. You cannot do this unless you have your quadratic in general form. We can find the roots by using the following formula. So this is the formula. X is found by going minus b plus or minus, take the root. There's going to be a long root. Okay? You take b squared and you go minus 4 times a. It's scary now, but it won't be later. Okay? 4 times a times c. All of that, I'll use a red pen for the line because a lot of students think this only pertains to the root, the following part. Just make sure you have that written down first, and then we'll do the next part. All of that has to be. Don't worry about the plus or minus. I'm going to explain that later on. Just make sure you have this written down. Okay. All of this, whatever we get when we compute the top, we will be dividing by. So make sure the line starts right from the beginning all the way to the end. Like that. Divided by 2 times whatever a is. Okay? All right. This part right here. This part right here inside the root. We kind of hone in on that, and it actually is given a name. The b squared minus 4ac that we just highlighted is called the discriminant. And you should probably have that name next to this equation here. Just say, like, put an arrow, right? That this part right here, the highlighted part, I would even highlight it on my equation. That is called the discriminant right there. And whatever you get inside the root gives us the result will be one of the following three scenarios. If b squared minus 4ac is positive, right? So on your study sheet, you probably only have the plus there, right? If it's plus, then we have two roots. If it's zero, no. If it's zero, you've got one root. And you remember, it's x-intercepts. Okay, guys, it's still, we're finding the x-intercepts. If it's negative, you will have no roots, and therefore no solution. So let's use this, put it to the test, see if you know how to do this. So to be honest, if I were you, I'd have this, obviously not this big. You have to make it nice and compact. Tell yourself that this is a discriminant, and then you have three options for the discriminant. Like once you write down the discriminant, you say positive 2 roots, 0 1 root, negative no root. Okay, because I will ask you why you stopped. Because when you do have a negative, you stop and you say no roots. Why is that? You say because the discriminant is negative. Okay. The other two I don't need an explanation, but the last one I do. Okay. Let's practice this. 21. Oh, I never changed the time on that one yet. Solve the following using the quadratic formula. If I ask you to use the quadratic formula, you have to use it, right? Don't try anything else. Because I know you know how to find the x-intercepts using your calculator at this point, right? You could type this into y1, graph it, find the x-intercepts, bingo, you're done. But if it's quadratic formula, you have to use it, okay? So first of all, this is already in general form. And trust me, at first they won't always be, okay? Perfect. So that means that A is equal to 3, B is equal to 3, C is equal to negative 3. Okay? So sign is very important. If you get the sign wrong, it can throw everything off. So let's use our formula. It calls for negative b plus or minus root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. What's c? It's negative 3, correct? That's why I put brackets everywhere, so I don't get the signs wrong. Over 2 times a. And basically, let's do this just for this one example. I will write this out one more time. It's a negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c. All of that divided by 2 times a. So that's homework for sure. Homework for tomorrow is having this on your study sheet. Okay. All right, let's clean this up. Negative 3 is just, right, negative 3, because there's no other negative inside. If there had been a negative, these two combine to positive, right? Plus or minus, grab your calculator. I would say the best way to do this part for you to not make mistakes is to type it in exactly the way I have it there. So using brackets, so 3 squared, use the x2 button, minus, not negative, minus 4 times 3 times negative 3. If you type it in exactly the way I have it in there, you should get 45. Try it. I'm going to copy paste here. If you use a negative here instead of minus, everything is multiplying. Every single thing in there is multiplying, and then you will get 324. This is wrong, okay? So it's supposed to be 45. Is it maybe worth mentioning? I will do it here. You choose whether or not you want it on your study sheet. Okay? Don't use this button. Okay? That's what I would say. Don't use that one. That's actually minus there. So this is 45. Over, this one we can do in our heads, right? 2 times 3 is 6. You have it like that. Once you have it cleaned up like that, what the plus or minus is saying is that, and this is positive. Discriminant is positive. Therefore, 2 roots. We know there's going to be 2 roots because it's positive. So here it is. x1, the first x-intercept, is going to be negative 3 plus root 45 over 6. And what I would suggest is you go, I'm going to go negative 3 plus, I'm going to go root of 45 like that. So negative 3 plus root 45, I hit enter, then I divide by 6. So you get 0.62 as your first x-intercept. So really what you found is 0.620. Okay, that's the first x-intercept. x2, my second x-intercept, I go back to the original, I go negative 3 minus, right, minus root of 45 divided by 6. And if you like copy paste, this is the way to go here. I'm going to show you the shortcut. Okay. So I just go up to this previous line right here. I copy that down, and then I just replace the plus with takeaway, subtract, and I hit enter. So you get negative 9.7 something, and don't forget to divide by 6. That is your second root, negative 1.62. So you found your second root right there. So these are your 2 x-intercepts. You could graph it, find the x-intercepts. You should get the same thing. If you don't, something went wrong in your calculations. Okay. Let's do one more. Here we go. Would you know how to clean that up? There are no brackets whatsoever, so you're like, oh, it's general form, but you've got stuff on both sides. Can't have that. So clean it up, okay? Combine like terms. I'm sure you're now getting good memories. You're remembering the grade 10 years, right? Combine like terms. You did that a lot, I'm sure. I don't know if they're good or bad, but anyways, memories. 8x squared. So I take this one, and I will combine it with that x squared over here. The 3x squared comes over subtracting. 5x is already there. Okay, I will combine it. Let's use squares here. I will combine these two. So I have 5x already on the left side. This one comes over adding. So I'm bringing everything over to the other side. Then I have the 7 and nothing. There's no constant on the other side. So now I'm down to 0 on the other side. So maybe it's worth mentioning that I'm bringing that over and I'm bringing this over, right? So you change the sign when that happens. Change sign of term when bringing over the equal sign. Okay, I don't know if your teachers did that in the past. They would most likely have done, hey, let's subtract 3x squared on both sides or add 4x to both sides. It's the same thing. If you're comfortable with that, just stay with it. This is, in my opinion, faster, right? So maybe I should just mention that I did that, right? And the 4x turned to positive. And then we'll say your change sign, okay? And you bring stuff over. And now you combine it. 8 and negative 3, that's 5x squared. 5x and 4x, that's 9x. And then plus 7. All that is equal to 0. Okay, so now I know that A is 5, B is 9, C is 7. All of them are positive. Remember, if you go back to this line right here where my pencil is, that parabola has a leading coefficient of plus 5. So you know it's pointing up and it's narrow. Okay, so a couple things to keep in mind here. So let's use the quadratic formula. It's negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c. Make sure the root goes over all of that, the b squared minus 4ac, right? All of that divided by 2 times 5. I want you to clean this up yourselves. What would the cleaned up version looks like before you branch off to the two solutions? Negative discriminant, no x-intercepts. Okay. One more. This one needs multiplication, then combining like terms. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I will multiply it out like that. This is 3x squared, right? And then 6x is equal to negative 3. And really, there's not much in terms of combining. You just bring the negative 3 over positive, and then you have nothing on the other side. That's where you want it at every single time. Can I just say something? If there's ever a y anywhere, if there's a y, they all turn to 0, right? Because when you're finding the x-intercept, y is equal to 0. So you can just basically ignore them. Okay? Or just plug in a 0 and then you got rid of them. So now a is equal to 3, b is equal to 6. I will do this a little faster and then I'll let you practice some on your own today. So here we go. X-intercepts will be found by going negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2 times a. Clean it up. What do you get there? I'm gonna, if I can tell you the most common mistake is students get this part inside the root wrong, most frequently. Okay, you should get a 0 in there. You don't need to justify, but just only one root. Okay, because if you add 0 or subtract 0, it's not going to give you a different answer, is it? You're going to get the same answer. So it's just -6 over 6 is just -1. And what does this tell us? If there's only one x-intercept, this is also our vertex. Right? When the vertex sits right on the x-axis, you only have one x-intercept, which is also the vertex. Note, -1, 0 is also the vertex. Okay. I will say this. I'm going to send you to I'll say 24 to 25. But I will clarify something before you go there. Actually, let's go there and clarify so that before you start, you know what I'm talking about. On page 24, it says solve the following using a graphing method or the quadratic formula. I just want you to do this one right now. Okay. This will be later, tomorrow. You'll see that you get the exact same answer using either one, but this is today, right? Today you're going to focus on the quadratic formula. Now, what's the -y there? Remember this? Remember, right? You let y equal to 0. Okay, remember that. So this is basically gone. It's just 0, right? So you can ignore it and just work with it as if it's not there. Okay. So do the same. Some of them are a little wonky. Just multiply out if needed, and then bring everything over to one side, and then you use the quadratic formula. Thank you, guys. Do at least 2 questions if possible.